I'm a psychologist, and I'm from Philadelphia originally, but I've been living in the United Kingdom. And I've been working in the field of cults for a long time, since about 1982, when I was 4. And I'm really thrilled to have so many families here, because families is really at my heart and got me interested in providing services to people. And so much of my work has been with families. So thrilled to see you, because I think that self-care is a wonderful topic. And for my mental health professionals who are doing this work along with me, I'm thrilled to see you too. So it's a little bit of a hybrid, and some of the slides will be more relevant than others, and we're just going to get through them. I've given you a lot of materials.
We don't have any.
Oh, I'm sorry. Handouts. Who doesn't have handouts? Oh, okay.
Do you want us to do it for you?
Okay. Are any of you mental health professionals that don't have handouts? The only reason I ask that is I've also been collecting some data on self-care from mental health professionals. But yes, I will accept some help in getting these things out. Thank you for letting me know that. So there's that one, and there's this one, and there's this one, and
Needed.
let me know if that's not enough. So there's 3 things.
Oh, no, that's rough. Did I go? I'm sorry. No.
Okay, there's one that looks like this. Anyone need this one? Okay. There's one that looks like this. Anyone need that one? Okay. Some more. Yep. And we need more of these. One that looks like this. Basically, I've been interested in the area of self-care for a long time, and that's because you teach what you need to learn, and I think it's really important to be thinking about self-care. And so I've published 2 articles on self-care recently. None of them are for families, but there are ideas in there that will apply to anyone. It's just that I published them in counseling journals in the UK. One of them was targeted for independent practitioners, so people working for themselves, and one of them was targeted for university and college counselors. So now you know what I do in the UK. I work privately with Return, Reentry Therapy Information Referral Network, which is my cult work that I began in the US and now have returned UK, and I work for Cardiff University. So there's all my logos. Okay, here we are. So the other handout that you have is stuff you can take with you. We may or may not work on some of that. Do come in. There's some seats in the front.
There's nothing on the screen.
There's nothing on the screen. Okay, don't worry. I must have hit the button. Magic. Oh no, it's not showing on the screen at all.
That's what I said.
Oh.
But you have to show that little,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was looking at you haven't seen anything. Thank you for speaking up.
You
Okay.
already turned. I haven't touched it.
I haven't touched anything either. Okay, very important. It's probably warming up. These things usually take a moment to warm up.
Yeah, I think it's
coming on.
Okay. Very important, thank you.
in front of it.
No, I won't. I think it's too much light to see it well. Anyway, the third handout is questions to use to develop your own self-care plan. Is that okay? Is everyone okay?
That would probably help a lot.
Okay. So you have takeaway things to work on if you want. It's ideas I've put together, some of which are in the article, some of which are in the presentation. It's things you can work on. We'll see how that goes, if you do any of that as a group or you just have it to take away. Anyway, here we are. And those are all the places that I'm working. Okay. Okay. I would like to ask for agreement from everyone for confidentiality. In that way, if you do want to talk at all about what challenges there might be going on to your own self-care or things that you're doing for your self-care, I'd like it to remain in the room and not be spoken about. Can everyone agree to that? And that will free us up to talk a little bit. The idea here is to gain some ideas and strategies, and we have about an hour and 10 minutes left to do that in before lunch. It's an introductory view. I have lots of materials, that's why you have stuff to take away with you. Come on in. Now, you're not expected to take care of yourself perfectly, so I'd like to say that right off the board. And I don't recommend it. So think about New Year's resolutions. You're going to lose weight, you're going to stop drinking, you're going to cut back on smoking, and by day 2 it's all gone because you took way too much on yourself. Now, this conference, it's not like other conferences. It's stressful. Lots of material coming up, lots of things to stir you up. You'll probably need a day when you leave the conference to wind down. And I think that's true for the mental health professionals as well as the families. So we have this little time together to think about ourselves. I don't think self-care necessarily comes naturally. And so that's why I've come up with this idea of really developing a plan for it. And what does it mean? It probably means lots of different things to different people because we're all so different from one another. And so to me, it's just anything you do that helps you feel better about yourself. Why a plan? Because it tends to get pushed aside as we're attending to other things, particularly if we're concerned about cult issues, which are very demanding of our time and energy. Why do you have to develop your own plan? First of all, no one else is going to do it for you. And second of all, no one knows you like you do. So you're actually best qualified. You are your own expert. You really know what things work for you and what things don't work for you. So it's actually to your advantage to develop your own plan. Now, this is more for the mental health professionals, but it applies to families too. If you're working, I do seminars on self-care at Cardiff University for staff. And it has a subtitle, Beyond the Work-Life Balance, which is one of those really hot terms. And I thought about it, and I thought, what does that mean, work-life balance? Does that mean there's work, and then there's life? And like, who's going to work, you know? So if you are working, that takes a lot of your time and energy. And it's important to take some time at work to take care of yourself. So there'll be more on that later. How do we achieve a balance of caring for ourselves while caring for those in or leaving cults, which can be a full-time job, this one, especially if you're family and you're thinking about it really pretty much all the time. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's the matter?
Is that your remote
This is
to change the
James.
slide?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's my birthday. It just makes me feel like God, you know. I just love it. It's one of my favorite toys. Okay, so the goals for today is to begin to think about developing a plan for self-care, to examine common obstacles to self-care for those who care about someone in a cult, or several people, considering strategies that might help you to take care of yourself, and getting a vision of how to sustain your plan. It's not enough just to have it, but like how are you going to make it work for yourself? Sharing with others and exchanging ideas. That's why I asked for confidentiality. Now, my objective is this idea of becoming your own manager of your own self-care. Taking responsibility for yourself being the one in charge. I have a relative who had some surgery yesterday, and I got an email this morning about how he was doing. And one of the wires had come out, and his wife told the nurse that's fused, and she said, no, it isn't, and she said yes, it is. And anyway, it was one of these sort of gray areas, but his wife was quite sure that something was wrong, and she kept making a fuss about this until finally someone came in and said, yes, something is wrong. To which the person wrote to me, you really have to be your advocate for your own health care. And I wrote back, you really have to be your advocate for your own health care and your own care. And it was actually health issues that originally inspired me with this idea of becoming your own manager. Because I was once in a rather bad accident, and I had to go through some rehabilitation. And during that time, I really learned about having to stay on top of things. Because I had a lot of doctors looking at a lot of little pieces of me. Nobody was looking at all of me. And during that process, my worst injuries were to my feet. And so I had this doctor, and he would look at me and look at my feet. And he would tell me how I was doing. But because I'd been thrown and I'd been kind of hurt head to toe, I had lots of quirky things happening. So one day in my doctor's visit, I had woke up with a big red splotch on my cheek. Very noticeable. I even had pictures of it, which I don't have with me today. And the doctor went to see the doctor. The doctor looked at me, looked at my feet. He said, you're coming along. And I said, wait a minute. What about that? He hadn't even looked. Wasn't a bad doctor. I mean, I actually like him. But he had gotten into a pattern with me, Linda V. And he forgot to look at me as a whole person. And I bet when you go to the doctor and you tell them your ailment, my stomach hurts, I bet sometimes they forget to look at your face, see if you flush, see what's going on with you in general. So anyway, it was many experiences I had during that time that inspired me with this idea. You really got to be your own manager. Be realistic and set achievable goals. Small steps, not a major overhaul. If you need a major overhaul, you probably don't. But if you do it step by step. So I like to follow my own advice where possible. So my achievable goal is to get you to make one change for the better. That's it. That's my goal. So this I put in mostly for therapists, so we'll take a quick look at it because there's a model in there for everybody, I think. I subscribe to the BACP Ethical Code for Guidance, which is the British Association of Counseling and Psychotherapy. I also subscribe to the American Psychological Association Code of Ethics, because I am licensed psychologist in the States. And they're quite similar, and there's a lot of interesting advice in there. Consider challenges to self-care because of your involvement with cultic issues. Analyze your own strengths and resources. Some of that's on your handout. What is the best thing that you're doing for your own well-being? Anybody want to share?
Working out.
Working out, exercise, gets you out of your head, gets you into your body. Forget about the cold problem during that time, or you probably forget mostly because the blood is going in different directions rather than in your head. Yes.
Getting enough rest.
Getting enough rest. I really stink at that one. I agree, yes.
We bought a puppy.
A puppy. A puppy's a wonderful thing. Well, especially when they're trained. Yes.
Well, when you're training them, it really takes your mind off of things, you know.
It does. And later on, I had this thing about who's caring for you, and puppies are caring for you. And that's it. They're just... To have any smokers in here, or ex-smokers? Ex. I think when you stop smoking, that's one of the best gifts you can give yourself. And for those of you who are smoking, you can cut back just a little bit. That really helps a lot. The cigarette companies don't want you to know that. So So they don't really promote that research, but actually even just reducing the number of cigarettes actually makes a considerable difference in your health. Okay, what are the impediments to your own self-care? What is the biggest challenge to providing adequate to good self-care? And I think that that also goes back to this one is a big impediment to your own self-care. It's very stressful. But what would you say? Anybody want to share the biggest impediment to your own self-care? Time. That's mine.
I define physically, athletic activities and stuff like that, but
Yes.
my challenge is reaching out to other people and getting support.
Reaching out to other people because
Yes, isolation.
having a cult-like problem isn't the same as almost all the other problems that families would have that they would share with each other. It's one of those problems that gets you to look when you tell people. They don't just say, oh, you broke your ankle. Well, what? So it's very difficult. It's very easy to get isolated. Being at this conference is really great because you're not isolated and you realize that even though maybe you're the only one in your community, possibly, in your immediate community that might be dealing with the problem, there are lots of people dealing with it. But that is really a tough one. Anyone else?
Motivation?
Motivation. Thank you for mentioning that because motivation is really difficult because it's not like a constant. You're motivated, you're not motivated. It's constantly changing the amount of motivation that you have. So it's a work in progress. So there's motivation and then there's like how to sustain motivation. So if you have a broken ankle and let's say you're an average person, not an athlete, and you're not a child, so what might that take? Maybe a couple months? And you're good as new, maybe a couple months? How many people are going to deal with the cold problem in a couple of months? So it's a long-standing problem. There are people dealing with this for years and years and even decades. And that's not to be discouraging because there are people that do get results quickly. But being realistic, it can be a very chronic problem. And how do you stay motivated? So, and then partly you can stay motivated by not being isolated so that other people can help you to stay motivated. Yeah.
Inability to stop the show between your ears so that it's easy to say I shouldn't obsess, which is different than not obsessing.
Yes, that's really good. There's a lot of stuff going on in your head, and there's a lot of information, and there's a lot of misinformation. And you have to sift out the misinformation from the good information, just like you do when you have medical problems. There's tons of information on the internet about medical problems. Some of the sites are more reliable and more up-to-date than others. So there's all this stuff going on. How do you turn that off? And that can be a problem that comes with sleep. Yeah. What do you want to say?
Well, obviously this is, is an enormous strain on a marriage.
Yes.
My husband and I we're trying something new because every time we talk about it, it's just stress. We're going to do something. We're going to set designated times during the day when we're going to talk about it. Because I have the need more than my husband, and just to know that there will be a time when we can talk about it, and he gets overwhelmed because I could talk 24/7. So we're trying that, and as a way to try to reduce the stress in our marriage.
This is an excellent strategy. Cult involvement, like illness, puts a lot of stress on the marriage. And people are different, so they don't usually have exactly the same feelings about things. So take a couple. If they have children, they probably didn't have exactly the same desire to have children at exactly the same moment. If it was planned, they reached a point where they were relatively close together about it. But oftentimes one person wanted it more than the other, and yet, people function in that way. don't have to feel exactly the same. Sometimes it's really a problem, and it's a whole nother subject, and it's very hard to actually intervene with someone who's in a cult or a cult-like group when the parents are very far apart. Now, that's a subject for another day, but it is an excellent strategy that you've come up. You need to know that there is some time, because it can't be ignored, it needs to be talked about and addressed, and perhaps your husband needs to know that it won't be all the time. So it's a negotiation, or like a mediation. You negotiate, we're going to have a time. And limiting the time for yourself is probably also helpful, because it can become an obsession, to go back to the obsession again, where it dominates everything in your life. So knowing that you have some time to address it is very helpful. This is basically at the core of why psychotherapy or counseling works. You know that there's this time when you're going to be looking at yourself and talking about your problems and trying to grow. And you go out and you do your other things, but you kind of know there's going to be that time. And then when you get closer to that time, you start preparing yourself, start thinking, what do I need to bring up? And then after that time, you're reflecting. And you can have the same thing on this time with your husband. You'll find that as you're getting close, you're going to think, I've got time. It's not really going to be enough time, because, I could really go for this for a long time. What am I going to bring up to him? What am I going to say? And then when it's over, you're going to find yourself thinking, what did he say? How far did I go? What are we doing? You're going to reflect on that. In its own way, it's kind of why counseling time, psychotherapy time works for me. And it's a really good strategy. Thank you for suggesting it. Okay. I have this section on ticking boxes for mental health practitioners, but what you might not know if you're not a mental health practitioner is that we are required to care for ourselves. So, in the code that I was telling you about, the British one, we are supposed to have self-respect, which involves knowing ourselves and caring for ourselves. And that's essential. It's not a luxury. It's not an add-on. It's essential to sustaining good practice. These are all quotes from the code. I'm not interpreting. What do they mean by self-respect? Well, actually, and it might be helpful for you to know this. In our ethical code, these are all principles that we have to do in treating our clients. We have to be truthful. We have to respect client autonomy. We don't tell them what to do. It's not like cult leaders. We have to be good-hearted, wanting good things to happen for our clients. We have to do no harm. We have to be fair. And the code reminds the counselors that this is also true for us, that we deserve that kind of respect as well. And therapists have to seek their own therapy for personal development when that's appropriate. And some programs require it for everyone and some don't, and it's pretty common that people have one on their own. In Britain, we have to have continual supervision. In the States, you reach a point where you can then do consultation, peer consultation. But in Britain, you have to have ongoing supervision throughout your practice. And we have to we can't just get old in our material, we have to be updated. This is very important, if you have cults and you want to sue, and sometimes it's a big cult and you could, and sometimes you can't because it's just some little person that set themselves up and isn't accountable to any particular professional group. Well, part of our self-care is to be able to have insurance, so if something happens, we can be covered and get advice and do what we need to do. But check this one out. This is my very favorite. We are required to have active engagement in life-enhancing activities and relationships that are independent of our counseling and psychotherapy relationships. Now, I have a special interest in psychotherapy cults and abusive psychotherapists, unethical ones. And sometimes they're getting all their needs met by their clients. And that's not right. We have to have life-enhancing things that nurture us outside of our work. So you could also apply that to yourself, that maybe I would have some activity and even relationships that are separate from whatever I'm doing about the cold problem right now. Maybe I need a friend to just go to the gym with. We don't talk about it at all. Maybe I should be in a book club, just read some other books about other things and talk to people about ideas. Okay, well that was for practitioners that aren't in the room, but there you have it. I always think of the pictures at the airlines where they go like, don't treat the airport people abusively. It's kind of the sign. Mental health practitioners also have fitness to practice issues. And so if we become too distressed or substance abusing or depressed and we can't function, it's our responsibility to get help and pull ourselves out of our work until we're okay. And this might require getting second opinions from other people. And this is something you don't necessarily see in bad practice or Cultic practice. But we have to take care of our clients. If we need time off, we have to make sure there are other people available to care for them. Okay, so for a therapist, self-care is an ethical imperative, but maybe for everyone in life it is. So let's just go with that for a moment. How do we do it? When is there time to take care of ourselves? There's the puppy. But really, we need people as well to listen to us, to hear our story, and to not be judgmental or freaked out by it. This is one of the problems for families. Or to not be blamed. Just going back to that one for me. To be listened to. Well, what did you do when they were children or something? You don't have to say it. You can see it in their face sometimes. How to unwind. So, you mentioned the obsessiveness and everything. So sometimes when I'm obsessing about things, I can't sleep. I'm just thinking about things. So finding some ritual to unwind, take my mind off of things. Then with therapists, we sometimes get compassion fatigue. We hear so many stories that it starts to get to us, and it's our role not to have it get to us in that way. It's our role to help, not get so immersed in it that we're feeling all the pain. We need to distance ourselves. Some of the former cultists I've worked with think I'm cold, and it's not that I'm cold, it's I'm not fake. Like the cult leader, oh, I love you, all this kind of nonsense that goes along with this fake building up. So I have a certain professional distance, and that enables me to work. It's actually helpful. You don't really want to be talking to a therapist and are more upset about the problem than you are. We feel things, but we need to step aside from it too. So how does anyone unwind? Anyone have some suggestions on that?
A couple of beers.
A bath, a couple of beers. Walking.
Exercise again.
Exercising. Good suggestions.
Cats.
Let me add another one that I use for unwinding. Music. Music changes my mood. So I like that. This is a diagram I made up. It's in your articles I've given out. In fact, it's in both of them, so I really liked it. But if self-care is neglected in professionals, you don't just become an impaired professional overnight. It's a process. It's a decline. And it's the same thing for non-professionals. You have stress before you have distress. And if you can recognize the signs of stress, oh, I'm a little stressed, then if you pay attention to it there, it won't build into distress. The thing on my face, I tend to wear my stress on my skin. It's one of my signs. when I see that happening, I know I'm under more stress. Maybe I need to slow down. Maybe something's up. If I get tension headaches, it's a sign to me. So you all have different places where you get it. You may get an upset stomach, whatever it is. But if we get distressed, that's even more important to pay attention then. And if we don't, we become impaired. When we become impaired, our judgment goes and we're not acting right, and then there's personal and professional consequences. After I made this up, I tried to make up the flip side of it, and I've come up with this. If we nurture our self-care, then we have self-care, which leads to self-respect, and then we start to thrive both personally and professionally. And then we need to think about that self-reflexivity to increase the self-care. And so that's a good thing. It feeds itself. And you have a version of that one in the articles as well. Now, we get into the areas of things that you don't think you think this, but it might be creeping in, and so I have a list of assumptions that maybe get in the way of your self-care. And one is I don't deserve it. They don't really go around saying, oh, of course I don't deserve self-care. You just find yourself acting as though you don't deserve self-care. Well, I can do that, and I can do that. Or I'm not responsible for my own self-care. Like other people should be taking care of this. Or I'd like to take care of myself, I just can't because of external factors. And these assumptions need to be challenged. It doesn't mean there aren't any external factors that might get in the way from time to time. They can't dominate always. You can have a marathon and stay up all night one night because you're really worried about something, you're really doing something, you're really having to attend to something. You can't do it every night. I can afford to skimp on my self-care when other matters are more pressing. Now, it's more important to take care of others than myself. So if you think, oh, well, I'll do that for myself after my child is out of the cold, there might be certain things that you're going to put off, but it's always worth thinking about and talking to people about because your life is going on. A lot of times when people do come out of cults, they go through grieving, and one of the sources of grief is the things they missed out on while they were in the cult. Because life goes on. People are in cults and they're traveling all over the world maybe with their cult, and they miss people's funerals and their family. Never have that back. And they miss graduations, and they miss birthdays, and they miss lots of things that are going on. And that's part of the grief that they go through when they come out. So your life is going on, and that's important. So these are things that I think should be challenged. I'm sure there could be more things on this list, so if you have any ideas of other things you're thinking of, get the sense of what I was thinking about. Philosophical issues. How important is it for me to devote myself to the cause of cultic issues? How much priority do cultic issues deserve versus demand of my life, my energy, my time, my resources? I've worked with families who mortgaged their homes to finance things that they were doing to get their children out. That might be an appropriate thing. Might not be. Depends on your situation. Depends on your age and your health and your opportunity to pay back that debt. I'm sure nobody would think it was worth being homeless. So there's degrees, and it's going to be different. There'll be different answers for everyone. There's no answers. It's just something to think about. What feedback and support can others offer me? You mentioned such an important issue before, isolation. sometimes we get put off from sharing with other people, even other people who know nothing about the problem. They'd be willing to do little things. They'd be willing to watch our puppy while we go to a meeting, you know. They might be willing to do lots of things for me. In fact, we might even educate them, and they might be willing to do a whole bunch of things. We don't know unless we think about it and take some chances and ask. Should I set a limit to how much time now and in the future I will devote myself to these issues? Sometimes people just think, you know, I've spent 10 years now trying to get my child out of this group. I'd like to move on to a different phase of my life where I'm just going to hope for that, but I'm not going to put as much into it anymore because I think I'm not really getting anywhere. I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait for a while. It doesn't have to be 10 years for that, just through that as an example. It could be 10 months, could be 10 weeks. It just depends on what's going on. Now, I really like this question. In what ways is my current lifestyle mimicking the life of a cultist? Because we all talk about how the cultists demand too much time, attention, too much money. It's all encompassing. These are the things that are destructive about cultic involvement. And yet sometimes when you're fighting something big like that, you end up being kind of similar. Your lifestyle's not that different. All your money's going into that. All your energy's going into it. All your spare time's going into it. So it's something to think about. Now, what areas need separate attention? Are there external factors that you need to deal with so that you can take care of yourself? Are there things, demands on you that maybe you can let go of? Do you need to be more assertive? Say no, set boundaries. What's going on inside? I'm talking about self-care, but what if you're already what if you're already into self-neglect? Some people, this has gotten to them, and they're really in that area. So you've got to put yourself up from that first. You've got to have basic care before you can do better. Or if you're having a physical problem, don't let it go. If you have a lump or something, don't be waiting. You know, take care of it. If you're having emotional distress, you could go for counseling. Or maybe you want to seek spiritual guidance. Maybe you're in an existential crisis and you want to attend to that. Right, this is in your handout. I don't know if we'll do this as a group or not because I want to get through the material, but you'll have the opportunity to do this on your own if not. But this is a values clarification exercise where you actually write down, and like I say, you have this as a handout, 10 to 20 things you like or love to do. And I've added including 5 to 10 at work, which families can do that too if you're working. Because I think it's important to take care of yourself at work and to remind yourself of what the things are that you like at work and see if maybe you need to be doing more of them. And after you make your list, you look at, do they cost a lot of money? I think my sheet says more than 20 pounds, but you get the idea. Can they be done alone? Do you need more training for it? Like if I thought I wanted to do scuba diving, I don't know how to do that, so I would need to take those lessons. And have you done it in the last month? And it's a very eye-opening exercise because pretty much every time I do it, I find some things on my list that are, gee, I don't even need anyone else to be with me and I can be doing them. There's no training and I haven't done them in the last month. Why? Why didn't I do that? I like doing that. Why did I let a whole month go by without doing it? And these can be very simple things that you like or love to do. They can be taking a bath, somebody mentioned. It could be smelling something nice, you know. It could be putting on some moisturizer, having a massage. It could be taking a walk. It can be simple things. It can be complicated things. So if we don't get to do it, you've got that sheet. And if you fancy doing that, give it a try and see what you can learn about yourself. Okay, Okay, so I mentioned this idea I have of building a self-care plan. Not waiting for it to happen, but thinking about it. So how do you do that? Again, you have these questions in your handout, so you don't really need to worry about writing them down for those of you that are doing that. But you need to think about what things nurture you and promote your growth. What stresses you? What are your buttons? What gets you going? What comforts you? Brings down the stress level. It's going to be really different for different people. What makes you feel good about yourself? And what makes you feel worse about yourself? And how much of these things is going on in your life? For example, are you doing lots of things that are stressful, getting very little comfort, and ending up at the end of the day feeling worse about yourself? And do you go through that 3-4 days a week? Or even every day of the week? And something needs to change. You need to build in some more things in your life that nurture you. You need to be around some people or things or objects that comfort you. Sometimes nature comforts me. Just looking out the window. Just forget to do that sometimes. Sometimes a beautiful picture makes me feel better. So I try to keep some at work. Try to keep some nice things I can look at. Certain things make me feel better about myself that are kind of related to my own standards for myself or my own thoughts. And you probably have your own, and certain things make me feel crappy. So in what ways are you gentle with yourself? Do you think, I'm doing a lot, I'm doing what I can. I can go to sleep at night because I'm doing what I can. I'm limited, but I'm doing what I can. What ways do you beat yourself up and think, I should be doing better, I should be doing more, I should be doing it faster? So all kinds of pressures like that. So if other people are being harshly critical of you, you can't really control that. But we tend to have some of that stuff that's going on in the head tends to be beating ourselves up. I didn't do enough. I could be doing more. I could be doing better. Not really satisfied with that. And sometimes a good antidote to that is thinking about how you would relate to someone else who's telling you your own story. Just stepping back and think, well, what if somebody told me, my child's in a cold, my husband's not as concerned as I am, I'm dealing with this mostly on my own, I got some misinformation, I wasted time, I don't know where to go for help. And you think, what would you say to that person? And you'd probably say, like, oh my God, that's a whole lot you're dealing with, a whole lot you're doing. It's a really difficult situation. So sometimes you'd have more compassion toward other people than yourself. So just try to think of that sometimes, and it helps. Now, I mentioned I wanted to give you ideas for strategies. So I try to take a holistic view and look at caring for your body, which many times we do forget our bodies or we take them for granted. So, for example, how many people know that there's a pool at this hotel? Anybody know that? Okay. There's a pool, and there's a fitness center, and there's a whirlpool, which can be very relaxing. And they're free at the moment. It's not like signing up for a club. They're not free, they're part of that hotel bill. So I like to really keep it simple. Think about taking care of your body in simple ways. So you can have all kinds of complicated dietary programs. I'm not against them. I just think at the heart of them is just eating sensibly, and for some people that might be all that you need to think about. So you kind of had a lot the day before, maybe you went out a little less today. Maybe you forgot to have some fruit, so you ought to have one at your next meal. Eat sensibly. Exercise. There's wonderful guidelines on how to have the best exercise. All the variety, taking the time off, let that muscle set of muscles rest, and then bringing them up. And there's all kinds of wonderful advice. I'm not against any of that either. I'm looking for realistic goals, so keep moving. Don't just stay sad. Do something for exercise. You aren't at a gym and you're not getting into any of that for various reasons, then go up the steps, take a walk, keep moving. I'm really happy because at my university office, I'm the farthest one from reception. I'm nearly in the other building. I really like that because every hour I know I'm going to get up. You know, that's a good guideline. Every hour, just stand up and stretch. And it's forcing me, no matter how busy I am, I've got to do that. I'm happy for it. So I really like where I am. Some people might find it a less desirable location. It's great. It's just my personal favorite. Just be comfortable in what you're wearing, especially in shoes. And address specific problems gently without shaming yourself. Let's say you're seriously overweight and it's harming your health or possibly harming your health. The worst thing you can do is shame yourself about it. So basically, you want to find some way to eat more sensibly, eat less, move more. I think that will start to help anything you do in that direction. Caring for your mind. Now, it could be that if this is all of our mind, that this, and this is cults. Could be. Okay. One of the needs that people have is to feel effective. Just feel like they're doing something. And this is one of the problems in the cult arena, especially for families. You're doing things, you're revved up, you're taking actions, and it's not getting anywhere. So this important need, which there's a big challenge to dealing with the cult problem, how to feel effective. And if you can't find it in whatever's happening with the person in the cult, then you need to have some other area of your life where you feel effective. It could be a small thing, but that would be a really good part of self-care. Now, we need stimulation, and people are really different about this. There's big differences. So I think a good way to think about where am I, what am I like in terms of what kind of stimulation I need, is ask yourself, what is my favorite vacation? Do you like to go to Las Vegas? Because that's a really different amount of stimulation than the seashore. Do you like to go to a really quiet place and just chill out? Do you go to a place where there are a lot of people or hardly any people? And this will give you clues as to what actually feels right to you in terms of how much stimulation you need. But not only do we need to be stimulated, but we also need to unwind. Caring for your spirit. A feeling of connection. The cults really threaten that because they have their own connection and the rest of the world is no good. And they're disconnected from it. So you may be very disconnected from your loved one. And you may have stress in your marriage, like we were talking about earlier, because you and your spouse don't feel equally upset about that. And so you might feel less connected there. So it's like, where are you going to feel connected? You can feel connected spiritually, you can feel connected with people, you can feel connected with puppies. But you need some feeling of connection. You can feel connected to work, you can say. And we need to have a personal sense of meaning. And again, if we're dealing with a long-term cult problem, that might threaten our own sense of meaning in our life. I don't take any pleasure in my life and the things I'm accomplishing because what really brings me down is my daughter's still in the cult. And so it's detracting from your personal sense of meaning. And that's a problem. Because even though my daughter may be in a cult, I did just do something meaningful and important. And I deserve to celebrate that. Self-identity issues. Who are you separate from what you do for work? Who are you separate from your family roles? And can you allow yourself to do things poorly? therapeutic to have things that are just maybe fun and you're not very good at them and you just do them to unwind. So I'm a pretty terrible skater. I'm quite slow and uneasy and I fall and I probably make a fool out of myself a bit, but I do think it's fun. And also, I think things like that are good because there are a lot of things I try to do well. I'm trying to do the presentation well. I try to be good at my work. So it's good to have some outlet where like, I don't have to be good at it. I can just show up and do things very mediocrely or even poorly. Now I would add to that, really, who are you separate from the cult involvement, whatever that is? Because, the cults try to take over the entire identity. They never do. They never do. There's always a part of that person there somewhere, maybe really buried. It may be almost impossible to get at. There's a part of that person that sometime during the day, sometime during the week thinks, well, I don't know if I agree with that. They never squash all the doubts. And we know this from talking to people that come out. And they'll tell you their stories. So they never really succeed. But they try very hard. And we can start to become people that are concerned about cults to the exclusion of other sides of ourselves. And that could become a problem. So that's a good question to ask yourself. Again, it's on your handout. Managing your energy. Sadly, we're not really the ever-ready bunny. We don't get unlimited energy. So don't use up everything you have in the first hour of your day, your waking day. So maybe you're going to work and you have a stressful commute and somebody cuts you off on the road or your train doesn't come and you find yourself getting really worked up about it and you don't let go of it. It might be good to just step back and think, wait a minute, it's not even 9 o'clock yet. I don't think I can afford this little shit thing. I better chill. I better take a deep breath. Let me just let that go. I've got a lot of other things I'm going to have to deal with today. So it's about pacing. Paying attention to how much energy is required by various tasks. When you set up this time to meet with your husband, you better have some mental energy ready. I mean that. You pick a time with him when you feel you can have that discussion. Don't wait till 10 o'clock at night to have that discussion. It's stimulating. You won't be able to come down from it. You probably won't sleep. Find a time that's right and that allows you to have the energy and allows him to have the energy to listen and to participate. So think about this. For the therapists in the room, think about when you want to be seeing clients. I have set up my schedule at the university where I'm working, where I do my assessments in the morning. This is new people. I've never seen them before. I got to figure out certain important things. Are they at risk? Are they suicidal? What do they need? There's just a whole lot that's going on. Has its own stresses. I can do them in the afternoon. I prefer to do them in the morning. I prefer to see people in the afternoon that I've already seen. I know them. It's a little different. It's a different kind of energy. It's also hard work, obviously. But it's a little different than that assessment. Almost a fear I have the first time with a person of not missing something really important. So something that might be more than what I can give them and where I need to refer them. So think about how much energy. Again, think about what activities drain you and what activities restore your energy or revitalize you. It's a very funny thing about the way our energy works. Exercise. When we do exercise, we burn up calories. We should be tired. Sometimes we are tired. Sometimes we just feel more energized because our metabolism gets a kickstart and it can last for hours. So that might be an activity that restores your energy, paradoxically. And sometimes you might put energy into some activities. Let's say you're getting a lot of information about Cultic processes and things like that. And at the end of it, you feel better. And you think, that took a lot of energy, but I learned a lot. I got some ideas now. So mental activities can restore your energy. So it's just thinking about that. Whereas well, I've worked with families that they were able to have phone contact with their loved one who was in a cult. But after a certain amount of time, it was so upsetting that they really needed not to have unlimited time. Sometimes the person's talking a lot of gobbledygook back to you. You're not really having a conversation. So what's important is that you are staying in contact and you're there. You don't necessarily need to have a really long conversation. So it's thinking about things like that. Relationship strategies. This is my favorite graphic that I found because I think it needs to be a balance. So what do I mean by that? I think everyone needs time alone. Time to just think. Time not to think. Time to lay down. Time just by yourself to sort of take stock where you're at. And a lot of people might not really say this, but I'm really in favor of superficial relationships. I think we should have some superficial relationships in our life where we don't open up, we don't talk about the serious things, we just have fun. We just do some activity together. So I think that's really actually very helpful. And then we need some people that we take in closer to our circle, our friends and even closer friends. So if you think about your own relationships, there are probably some people you tell a little bit of the story to, and other people you might tell more of the story to. And then somebody you can really just let down your guard and be intimate with. So that might be a partner, it might be a friend, it might not have anyone. It might be a therapist. You can be intimate with the therapist in the sense that you're sharing your private thoughts and feelings that you're not ready to tell anyone else yet. So you can also get some of your needs met through relationships with your colleagues, or even managers, groups, or communities. Now, that's a tricky one for people that come out of cults because sometimes they feel like all groups and all communities are bad because they've been burned and all that. But actually, we need some feeling of belonging to a group or a community. So you can look at your own relationships and say, where do I need to build from my relationship? Do I need to open up more and be more intimate with my partner? Do I need to think about my relationships at work? Do I need to go to my church group more often? Do I need some people that, am I taking everything too seriously? Do I get any time alone? Maybe you're not getting any time alone, so it gives you a way of looking at it. Then there's different kinds of communication. To whom can we confide our anxieties about, and I just put our performance and achievements, but it could be about cults. To whom can we confide our anxieties? This was really directed more toward the therapist in the room. To whom can we talk about what has happened in psychotherapy sessions? Because it is private and confidential, but we have to have our own time and our own supervision and our consultation. And there needs to be someone that we can talk to as well. And that's actually a really important check in our work. And many times the psychotherapy cult leaders have built themselves up to where they think they're better than anyone else, and they don't talk to anyone else. And that's one of the problems. What are we not telling certain people? This happened to be something I got from a supervision seminar, where Robin Showett said, what are you not telling your supervisor, and why not? And by the way, in my group, our discussion about that, we weren't telling our supervisors some of our deeper fears, really, I'm a terrible therapist, or I was awful in that session, because we had fears of really looking bad, but everybody had them, so really it's okay to talk about these things. They're even important. What are we not telling our partner or close friends? Or what are we holding in? What toll does it take? Is that going to make us physically ill? Is that going to make us emotionally ill, spiritually ill? Now, we don't want to tell everyone everything. We do want to have boundaries, protect ourselves. But, again, a range of levels of communication to think about. Your restoring balance in your life. So thinking about how you're organizing your time. Setting priorities, what's urgent versus what's important. I once spent a whole week, every week from 9 to 10, I was trying to get my colleague who was working with me on a project to do her part of the work. And that felt very urgent to me because we needed to get the project done by a certain time. It was coming up. And on the fourth day, I thought, why am I wasting my energy from 9 to 10 in the morning before I see clients? Beating my head against the wall. I don't know what's wrong. She's just not doing it. So instead, I spent the hour doing other stuff, and I felt so good at the end of the hour. At the end, the project wasn't done as well as I would like to have had it done. You know, it got through. It was okay. And sometimes you just can't do it. You can't get what you want, and so you have to rethink how important is it. Taking breaks. It's okay to take vacation and not talk about the whole problem at all during it. Okay, so here's some suggestions for you. Make the distinction between your involvement with cultic issues and the rest of your life. Don't forget about it. This is really not different than saying, like, I'm a parent, but that's not all of who I am. So, thinking about that for yourself, how you can have a space separate from cultic issues. If your whole house has cultic books and articles in every single room, maybe that's not so healthy for you. Having some physical space that's separate, maybe metaphorical space. Having a place where you can get away from it, a safe space that can be real, or it can just be sitting and imagining that you're sending all that cult worries up into outer space and just letting go of it for a little while. Having comforting stimuli like objects, music, photos, pictures, stress balls. Some way of leaving the cultic issues behind. Compartmentalization is something that therapists often teach clients, and it's something that can help everybody. So it's 10 o'clock at night, you take all your worries about your loved one and you put it in a container. How do you do that? It could be a real container. You have a box or a jar or something. Some people even think of a God jar. So for those of you who are inclined that way, think of surrendering and turning it over to God. You don't have to take it in that direction. It could just be you're setting it aside. So you write down a piece of paper your worries, and you fold it up and you put it in the jar. And you don't look at it again. You give it away. You let it go. It could be imaginary. You just say, I'm going to put that problem as in the farthest corner of the room. And then you do that. You think, it's not far enough. Outside the room, wherever, outer space. I'm going to put it on a rocket ship and let it take off. It is possible to be tense and relax at the same time. So I like to demonstrate that by it's not easy. If I tense up this arm, everything in this arm wants to tense up with it, but I can let it be loose at the same time. This is a good strategy if you're in physical pain. It's possible to have a lot of stomach pain and not let it tense up your whole body. And in your head, you can have certain parts of your head that are really worried about things, and yet you can take a break and do your work or do something for play. You can work on letting go of worries, self-doubts, harsh criticisms, or even selective responsibilities. This is a temporary measure. If you put it in a container, it should never be a container that's sealed shut, airtight, and can never be opened again. It should be a leaky container. Because you need to know, I can come back to that when I have the energy and the time and the resources. I'm letting go of it for now. Make yourself comfortable, both at work and at play. Have a way that when you leave behind work or thinking about the cold problem that they're not reminders of. That's why I say don't have things in every room of your house. Change your mood. I find changing my clothes when I come home from work is just really good. On Friday, when I get back from work, I take all my work keys and I put them away in a drawer, and that's just my way of letting myself know this weekend. It's a really simple thing, really changes my mood on Friday. It just feels really good to me. I just put it away. I'm going to take it out Monday morning, but just take a break. I have a whole thing in my article about what's on your desk at work, so you can read that later. But you can do things to make yourself more comfortable. These were directed for therapists, came out of some research. These are things that help therapists take care of themselves. There were 12 things. These are the first 6, valuing your person, and again, families, value yourselves. Refocus on the rewards, why we're doing the work that we're doing, recognizing the hazards, taking care of our body, having nurturing relationships, setting boundaries, good advice for everybody. And this is sort of like cognitive, looking at our beliefs, like I should be doing more based on what, just questioning our beliefs in a way that might change them to be more realistic. Taking a break, having a healthy escape, creating an environment for ourselves where we grow and flourish, maybe going for our therapy, cultivating spirituality and mission, and the last one was fostering creativity and growth. Art, like the Phoenix Project here. Families can have artistic outlets. So this is just something that comes out of the addiction literature as to how people change. And so if you're thinking about making one change in your self-care after my time with you today, you can then think about it. This is something I'm really going to do, but it's just a thought that maybe I could do that. It's okay. It's just knowing that I'm not really ready. It's just pre-contemplation. Or am I really thinking about it? I'm almost ready to do it, or I'm prepared. I'm not only prepared, I'm taking action. Or it's something I'm doing that I want to do more, I'm maintaining it. And then everybody recycles or everybody relapses, and you don't have to go back to the beginning. When you relapse, you might go back to pre-contemplation. Maybe you stopped smoking or you had a cigarette and you think, oh, I'm not ready to quit. And you forget that actually you didn't have cigarettes for 2 months. You are ready. And all you need to do is go back to caring. Okay, let me get rid of that pack of cigarettes I bought when I was having a bad moment. So it's a spiral model, it's not linear. So, choose an area for yourself. It could be body, mind, spirit. Think about if you're really ready to do something or it's your pre-contemplation wherever you're at. Think about some of the strategies we talked about, what might help you to do it. Think about what's going to challenge you, what's going to get in the way, how you'll tackle it. Evaluate your results, how you're doing. Modify your goals. Maybe you started with the wrong thing. Maybe you should be something else. Oops, I missed. I had a nice effect for that. Okay, so we have a little less than 10 minutes left for questions and discussion. And for those of you who came in late and maybe didn't get the handouts, you can come up to desk at the end and we'll